In this video, we'll be solving radical equations containing one radical. A radical equation is an equation that has a variable in the radicand. We're going to be using the property if a equals b, then a raised to the n equals b raised to the n to solve these types of equations. This is just our basic solving equations property. Whatever you do to one side of an equation, you got to do to the other side of the equation. So if I square the left side, I got to square the right side. That's all this property says. Now, there's one big catch here. If you raise both sides of the equation to an even power, you must check your answer. The resulting equation may have extraneous solutions to it because you're changing the degree of the equation when you raise both sides to some power. That's why. So, must check your answers in the original equation if you raise both sides to an even power. So, our steps to solve, you want to start by isolating the radical. Then you're going to raise both sides to the appropriate power to cancel out the radical. So if it's a square root, we're going to square. A cube root, we're going to cube. Then solve the resulting equation. Let's solve the cube root of 2x equals negative 2. I want to start by isolating the radical. Great, it is. Now we want to raise both sides to the appropriate power to cancel out that cube root. What exponent cancels with a cube root? A cube. And whatever we do to one side of an equation, we have to do to the other side. On the left, the cube and the cube root cancel out, leaving us with 2x. And on the right, negative 2 raised to the third power is negative 8. We solve the resulting equation. By dividing by 2, we get x to be equal to negative 4. Since we raised both sides to an odd power, there's no need to check our solution. Unless you're unsure about the steps you did, and then you can always check a solution in the original equation, but we don't have to. Let's solve the fourth root of x squared plus 2x plus 8 minus 2 equals 0. The first thing we want to do is isolate our radical. So let's add 2 to both sides. This gives us the fourth root of x squared plus 2x plus 8 equals 2. Next, we want to raise both sides to the appropriate power to cancel out that fourth root. We'll raise both sides to the fourth power. On the left, the fourth root and the fourth power cancel out, leaving us with x squared plus 2x plus 8. And on the right, we'll have 2 to the fourth, which is 16. We need to solve the resulting quadratic equation. We'll solve it by factoring. So let's set it equal to 0. Factor, and then set each one of our factors equal to 0. This factors nicely into x plus 4 times x minus 2. We're going to set each one of our factors equal to 0 and solve. We get x equals negative 4 and x equals positive 2. But before we can circle our answers and move on, notice that during our solving process, we raised both sides to an even power. Therefore, we must check both of these solutions in our original equation. So let's start by checking x equals negative 4. And we're plugging it into the original equation. Is the fourth root of negative 4 squared plus 2 times negative 4 plus 8 minus 2, is that equal to 0? And let's just clean up under our radical. So it's 16 minus 8 plus 8. Our 8's fall out. This is the fourth root of 16 minus 2. Is that equal to 0? Well, the fourth root of 16 is 2. 2 minus 2 does equal 0. So I know at least this one's good. Now we need to check our other one. Let's check x equals 2 in our original equation. Is the fourth root of 2 squared plus 2 times 2 plus 8 minus 2 equal to 0? Cleaning up under our radical, it's going to be 4 plus 4 plus 8. It's going to give us the fourth root of 16. And the fourth root of 16 is 2. 2 minus 2 does equal 0. Both solutions are valid. Let's check out an application problem. How far would a submarine periscope have to be above the water to locate a ship 5.6 miles away? The equation for distance in miles that the lookout can see is d equals 1.4 times the square root of h, where h is the height in feet above the surface of the water. Well, they tell us that the ship is 5.6 miles away. That's our d. So we're plugging that into our equation. We get 5.6 equals 1.4 times the square root of h. To solve a radical equation, you first want to isolate your radical. We'll do that by dividing both sides by 1.4. That gives us 4 equals the square root of h. Next, we want to raise both sides to the appropriate power to cancel out our radical. It's a square root, so we square to get rid of it. On the right, our square and square root cancel out, leaving us with just h. And on the left, we get 16. Before we can be satisfied with our answer, we need to check our answer, since during our solving process, we raised both sides to an even power. So let's plug it in. Does 5.6 equal 1.4 times the square root of 16? The square root of 16 is 4, and 1.4 times 4 is indeed 5.6. So our answer is good. Remember, since it's an application problem, you want to make sure that you've answered the question and included any appropriate units. The question is, how far would the submarine periscope have to be above the water? Well, that's what h tells us, so we have answered the question. The only other thing we need is units, and it says right here, h is the height in feet. Our final answer is 16 feet.